It seems like every day on here I'm complaining about something, I'm yelling at somebody, and well, today's no different. Yeah, welcome into Between the Ears. Good Wednesday morning. I'm Schuyler Callihan of Mountaineers Now here on Between the Ears. And yesterday, the NFL revealed the list that featured 321 players that have been invited to this year's NFL Combine up in Indianapolis, and only one player on that list of 321 will be representing West Virginia, and of course, that being center Zach Frazier. Congrats to Zach, by the way. He has done a phenomenal job of not just appearing on NFL scouts' radars, but really asserting himself as one of the top offensive linemen in this draft class, despite the leg injury that he had against Baylor. But he has been phenomenal in his collegiate career. He 1000% deserves this opportunity. Whether or not he's going to be able to do much is a little is remain to be seen. But we'll see what happens there. My issue lies with one of the two guys that did not get invited to the NFL Combine, and judging by the title, you probably know who I'm talking about. That is Beanie Bishop. How a consensus All-American, and let me underscore that one for you, consensus All-American does not get invited to the NFL Combine is beyond me. And I don't have the data, the research to back it up, but I'm just assuming here that he's probably not the first and probably won't be the last to have such an honor attached to his name and not get invited to this draft event. I don't understand how a player that has been nationally recognized by several publications as one of the best players at his position doesn't get the invitation to go to Indianapolis. 321 players get to go to this thing, okay? That is more players than there is draft picks. So, and again, that doesn't necessarily mean that if you don't get the invite to Indianapolis that you're not going to get drafted, and it doesn't mean that if you get to go to the combine, it doesn't mean you're 100% guaranteed to get drafted. Things happen both ways. I get that. But this is huge for Beanie, because this is a guy that he's already working against a lot here. He's only had really one full year of high-level production, and that being this past year. He's also got the size thing, which is at his disadvantage. He's not the biggest. He's not the longest corner. He played a lot of zone coverage this past year at WVU. There's a lot of question marks about what can he do in man coverage? What can he do in press coverage? There's a lot of those questions that are going to be that are going to need to be answered before the draft. You're not going to get all those answers at the combine, but just getting in the eyes, in the presence of the scouts, coaches, GMs in Indianapolis is huge. If he goes to Indy and he tests well, he interviews well, all of a sudden, he's starting to build himself a case. And he'll get to do that in Morgantown for their pro day. But we're talking about a week. He would have been in Indianapolis for a handful of days, close to a week, getting the opportunity to speak with these people. And not only the NFL Combine, but the Reese's Senior Bowl missed out on Beanie Bishop. They declined to invite him to play in that game as well. So I just don't get what the rationale is behind all of this. And I think it really hurts guys like Beanie, who, like, you look at some of these top corners in this year's draft, right? And there's no question that those guys should be there, because they're going to be guys that go in the first round, maybe the early part of the second. And you kind of want to know, hey, if we're taking a guy this high, we need to be sure. We need to have conviction on this guy. But you also have to have answers on guys like Beanie Bishop, who had a tremendous year, but you've got to figure out, is this kid just a one-hit wonder at West Virginia, or is this something that can translate to the next level? And now you're minimizing that to what can he do at his pro day? This is a consensus freaking All-American, and he's not going to get to go to the combine? I mean, I honestly had a hunch that this was going to happen because he got shut out of the Senior Bowl. There's already some pre-draft stuff out there, some pre-draft analysis, some mock drafts out there that don't even talk about Beanie Bishop. So I kind of felt like this was coming. So since I felt like it was coming, I had this one note. I wanted to find a really good statistic on Beanie. And I jotted this down, and I've been waiting to unload it. Here's this. Going back to 2005, that's 18 years. Going back to 2005, Beanie Bishop has more passes defended than anybody that has ever played the defensive side of the ball and played the ball in the air consistently. He has more passes defended than William Jackson III, Rashard Fant, D. Milner, Bryce Hall, Nick Nelson. You want me to keep going? I mean, those five guys I listed right there, four of those five were drafted. Two of which went in the first round, William Jackson and D. Milner. Bryce Hall was a second-round pick, early second-round pick, 36th overall, and Nick Nelson was a fourth-round pick. So those guys had fewer passes defended and were drafted fairly early in the draft. Beanie Bishop doesn't even get an invite to the NFL Combine. And I'm not just trying to hone it in on just one stat, but if you go watch Beanie and his tape from this year, he excelled in everything that he was asked to do. Again, a lot of that was in zone coverage, but he played extremely well. He shut down half of the field. And I'd be willing to bet, based on his work ethic, his IQ, he's going to be able to play at the next level in some sort of role. Is it a starting role? I don't know. Is it somebody that's going to come in and primarily playing zone coverage? Potentially. But if that's what he's asked to do, he's going to do it at a damn high level. I just think he in particular is one of the biggest snubs that I've seen in a long, long time. A consensus All-American doesn't get that invite to Indianapolis. And that's going to impact his draft stock. I don't care what anybody says. Yes, he could put on an absolute freaking show at Pro Day. And there's a good chance that he'll do that. But not getting that invite to the combine, that's going to kill him. It could kill him. That's a hard thing for me to grasp and put my thoughts around. I just don't even know. I'm honestly speechless. There's guys that are invited to this thing that have nowhere near the production. And good for those guys. You know, they'll get their opportunity, but how Beanie Bishop is not there is beyond me. So hopefully he proves everyone wrong. He puts this in the back of his mind and said, hey, you know, look, Reese's Senior Bowl didn't think that I was good enough to be here. The NFL Combine said that I wasn't one of the top 321 prospects that were interested in me. And how that's picked, by the way, is this governing body. It's basically a selection committee that's made up of different scouts and scouting services. There's all 32 NFL teams kind of put their input into the list, but how they miss Beanie Bishop, again, way over my head. So hopefully proves him wrong, shows out at Pro Day, gets himself drafted, makes a name for himself in the NFL. We can look back at this and say, told you so. That'll do it for me here today on Between the Ears. I'm Schuyler Callihan. Make sure you hit that subscribe button on YouTube at Mountain Ears Now. Give us a like and a follow on Twitter, or X as it's now called, at the same handle. And we'll be back tomorrow with another episode.